Fear is often the quietest voice in the room, yet somehow it still manages to hold us hostage. And nowhere is this more true than in the realm of forgiveness, especially forgiveness of ourselves.
You're listening to the Speaking from the Heart series, conversations that connect gospel truth and universal values with real-life purpose. In each episode, we explore how living by faith can shape how we lead, work, and serve others. When we speak and live from the heart, we find strength not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. Join us for our other podcasts, coaching talks, and affiliate marketing secrets, and find us at www.fontenay-magazine.com. The links are below.
Hi, I'm Richard Fontenay, and welcome back to the Speaking from the Heart series, where we explore gospel wisdom and how it shapes our business, our work, and our everyday relationships. Now, I'm honored that you're here today. Today's episode explores the psychology of forgiveness for self and for others. We'll look into why fear blocks forgiveness, how ego traps us, and what Jesus teaches us about forgiving without limits, and how we can carry this into business, work, and life. Oh, and stay to the end of this podcast, and you will receive a reflection of forgiveness as a path of healing. Now let's begin with an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't struggle with forgiveness because they're cold or uncaring. They struggle because they're afraid. Afraid of being hurt again. Afraid their forgiveness makes them look weak. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of facing their own faults. Fear whispers, "Don't open that door. The pain behind it." And yet, Jesus consistently responds with the words, "Don't be afraid." He says this in many contexts, storms, uncertainty, doubt. But the message applies just as clearly to forgiveness. Don't be afraid to ask for forgiveness. Don't be afraid to offer forgiveness. Don't be afraid to begin again. You know, Peter once asked Jesus, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" And Jesus responded, "Not 7 times, but 77 times. That's in Matthew chapter 18. In other words, forgiveness must be limitless. Now, across the 4 Gospels, Jesus spoke about forgiveness over 40 times, through parables, directives, and personal encounters. He forgives the adulterous woman. He forgives those who crucify him. He forgives Peter, who denies him. And he forgives again and again, always pointing toward the healing rather than retaliation. So why do we resist forgiveness? If forgiveness is commanded, then why do we resist it? Well, because forgiveness forces us to confront our deepest vulnerabilities. For instance, ego, that voice that says, "I can't forgive him, and I won't forgive her." Our ego would rather protect the wound than heal it. Perhaps it's a painful memory. Some scars run deep. We think forgiveness means the wound didn't matter. But forgiveness never erases the meaning. It simply releases the power of the wound. Or perhaps it's false assumptions. We tell ourselves, forgiving means trusting again. Forgiving means excusing the behavior. Forgiving means I lose. But none of that is true. Forgiveness is not denial. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is freedom. Now here's a story to hold on to. It's about a leader who carried resentment toward a former colleague for nearly 10 years. They had argued over a project, and harsh words were exaggerated. Each time the memory surfaced, he felt the sting, the embarrassment, the anger, the judgment. He told his coach, "I can't forgive him. He never apologized." And the coach gently asked, "And how has holding on to this helped you?" And he paused and tears came. "It hasn't," he said. "It's exhausted me." Forgiveness did not change the past, but it changed him. He told his coach that it felt like unlocking himself from a chain he didn't realize he had been dragging for a decade. And forgiveness doesn't free the other first. It frees you. Now let's look at applications for business, work, and life. In business, forgiveness builds courage and collaboration. Unforgiveness in business creates quiet hostility, low morale, and fear-based cultures. Leaders who practice forgiveness, though, create psychological safety, a space where mistakes become learning and not punishment. A forgiving leader empowers teams to innovate because they're not terrified of failure. In the workplace, forgiveness strengthens relationships. Workplace tensions between co-workers, departments, or managers often stem from lingering hurts. Forgiveness keeps teams flexible and not brittle. It reduces stress and burnout. It lifts resentment that drains productivity. A forgiving workplace becomes a healthier workplace. Now, I remember facilitating a planning workshop, but the team members held numerous grudges against each other. We entered a burning ceremony where we listed all the grudges on a flip chart, and then we burned them outside in the parking lot. Team then turned to each other and forgave the person for holding the grudge. And back inside, the room lifted, the mood was electric, and we moved into a planning process without a hitch. In life, forgiveness restores peace and inner freedom. Resentment steals sleep and joy and emotional grounding. Forgiveness restores the peace in the heart and mind. And importantly, forgiveness of self is just as essential. Many people forgive others, but secretly punish themselves for years. Jesus forgave Peter immediately after his denial. So why then do we refuse to forgive ourselves? Now here's another story for your reflection. An elderly woman once shared how she couldn't forgive herself for a mistake she made in her 20s. Something no one else even remembered. "Why can't I let go?" she asked. Because, her coach said, you're still holding yourself to old pain that God has already released you from. And sometimes the person we need to forgive is the one in the mirror. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, I ask you to reflect on these comments. What resonated with you? Was it fear, ego, the freedom of release? What touched your heart? Perhaps it was one of the stories, a gospel verse, a realization about your own relationships. What can you do to turn this teaching into action in your business, in your work, or in your life? Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's simply letting yourself breathe again. And how can you share this reflection with others? Perhaps it's a friend who is struggling, colleague holding on to a grudge or a resentment, a family member carrying old wounds. You know, your sharing may be the beginning of someone else's healing. Now, in our next episode, we'll explore another gospel teaching on love and compassion. Until then, may you walk in peace, and may forgiveness open a new door in your life. Oh, and by the way, your reflection awaits you in the description below. Now, I'm Richard Fontenay. See you next Monday, if not before. Bye now.